Welcome to Comic Power. I am your host, Comic Killer 72. Welcome to Wicked Wednesday, where we discuss all the new comics that's coming out this week. Every Wednesday is like Christmas for us nerds because that's when the new comics come out. These are my recommendations for the best books to pick up on Wednesday. But here's some other information first. Remember to click on the bell, folks. That will remind you when a new video is posted. From now until October 4th, 2017, I will be doing only one video a week. It usually goes live on Tuesday afternoon, but if you click on the bell, you'll get notified in real time when it drops. Also note that I do sell comics on eBay as well, and my feedback score is 100%. I'm liquidating a lot of stuff because I'm getting married in October and weddings are expensive. I'm selling a lot of these comics at below market value, so go ahead and exploit me while you got the opportunity. For example, Descender #1 first print usually goes for about $8 to $10. I sold this for $2 at my eBay page. Come on, seriously. These prices will never be this low again. Man, I sound like a used car salesman, don't I? But for real, they'll never be this low again, so go ahead and go out there and buy something. I'll put the link in the description. And thank you to all who have sent warm regards about the wedding. But for now, it's time for New Comic Day. And DC Comics has given us Action Comics number 988, and we learn more about who Mr. Oz is. There's going to be a lenticular cover for this, and those proved to be very popular when DC did this with a button storyline. The lenticular is cover A, the cover B is the same art but it's not lenticular, and cover C is Mikhail Janine, which looks like this. Action Comics lives up to its name. Next up is Batgirl number 15, and there's a budding romance that's sparking between her and Nightwing. There's also a cover B variant that's drawn by Joshua Middleton. He did a fantastic job on the Aquaman cover last week. These cover B variants have raised the profile of Frank Cho on Harley Quinn and Jenny Frison on Wonder Woman. I think Joshua Middleton's praise is next. Just look at that. That looks incredible. It looks like a golden age Hollywood movie poster. Next up is Batman Beyond number 12, and we have Nissa, the new Batgirl of the future, showing up in this. We really don't know that much about her except that her name is Nissa and that she's a 15-year-old girl. She's Batgirl, she's 15 years old, she's a lady of color, and her name is Nissa. We don't know that much beyond her. Co-creator is a female artist named Annie Wu, so I imagine that she's some type of Asian persuasion. Yeah, I rhyme. I do it all the time. I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. This is not this character's first appearance. She first appeared in Batman Beyond Unlimited number 18 from 2013, shown here. Speculators are snatching up copies of this in case the character catches on. If you can find one of these out there in the wild for less than $8, go ahead and grab one because it could pay off in the future. First appearance and first cover, can't beat it. Next up is Batman Murder Machine number 1. This is from events that come out of Dark Knight's Metal. I think this is DC's answer to what Marvel is doing with Venom and playing up the horror aspects of comics. Speaking of horror, we have The Flash issue number 31. And this is part 2 of the Bloodwork storyline. The Flash number 30 was the first appearance of the Bloodwork character, and it was the pick of the week for September 13th. I really believe it's a good long-term pick. As you can see, the cover B variant looks very Venomish. I'm getting a little sick of Venom right now because Marvel is doing so much overkill on the Venom verse. But you can't deny the numbers. It's selling a lot of comics, so DC had to respond. I think this is how they're doing. Next up is more Batman with Batman in the Shadow number 6. And this is the finale of this miniseries. The Shadow started out as a radio program back in 1930, and it's a big influence on Batman. They're both vigilantes just dressed in black. They go out at night and clean up the scum. The surreal artist Jock loans his talents out for the cover B variant shown here. I really like what they did with this crossover. If you missed out on it, go ahead and pick up a trade paperback when it drops soon. Next up is Detective Comics number 965. And this is a new storyline called The Lonely Place for Living, starring Tim Drake. And he's forced to make a big decision. DC is promising that this will be one of the biggest stories of the Rebirth era. I guess you have to check it out to see if that's true. Next up is Wonder Woman number 31, and Princess Diana is kicking ass as usual. Rising star artist Jenny Frison will continue to make the cover B variants. However, the images were not available at the time I made this video. But check out the Frison cover B variant archives. They look tremendous. Almost all of them are selling for above cover and going higher. Next up is Nightwing New Order number 2 of a 6-part miniseries. This future Nightwing story is one of my favorite genres. Dystopia. In this world, superpowers are banned and made illegal. And Dick Grayson, aka Nightwing, leads a police force called the Crusaders to make sure that everyone is complying to the new law. Of course, there might be a little Judge Dredd in this. But Nightwing learns of a shocking secret that may test his commitment to the police force. I'm all in on this miniseries, and issue number 1 was the pick of the week for August 23rd. Next up, let's see what the mighty Marvel mob is up to. And that's going to be Black Panther number 18. This series has lost a lot of people because the storylines are taking so long to develop. The writer is Nissa Coates. I can't pronounce his name for nothing. And he was an author, and this is his first shot at comics. I think he's writing it in a novel-esque type of format, but in comics, you need a bigger payoff much faster. We're up to issue 18, but most comics will be up to this storyline around issue 6 or 7. For now, Marvel is sticking with Coates, but they have recruited Jenny Frison to help out with the cover B variants to help boost sales and interest. And they're all going to be connecting covers. This is what last month's looked like when they brought Storm back and put her on the cover. Of course, there's going to be a Venomized cover because Marvel just can't help themselves. It can't be just me that's tired of this gimmick. Next up is Generations Hawkeye #1, which is going to a second print. Almost all of the Generations books are selling very well. This teams up the original Hawkeye in the person of Clint Barton and the new female Hawkeye in the person of Kate Bishop. Next up is Generations Miles Morales Spider-Man and Peter Parker Spider-Man #1. Marvel is showing some restraint on this by only giving 3 covers for it. Remember, the Generations books are $5 instead of the regular $4. Miles Morales is hotter than ever, especially since we now know that he exists in the MCU. Next up is Generations, Sam Wilson Captain America and Steve Rogers Captain America #1. Sam Wilson took over as the new Captain America in 2015 when Steve Rogers was no longer able to do it. I don't think the Secret Empire crossover did a good job of answering questions. All it did was confuse casual viewers even more. Black Panther may be the first black superhero, but Sam Wilson's the first African American superhero, first introduced as the Falcon in Captain America 117 back in 1969, looking like this. Marvel has always been at the forefront of diversity in comics, so the people that are complaining and whining about it now, I really don't understand your position, because Marvel has always taken the position of diversity. More examples are Luke Cage, who was the first black superhero to headline his own title in 1972, and Storm, introduced in 1975, is still the most prominent black female superhero to this day. Next up is Thor Omnibus Volume 3. If you're trying to get a whole run of Silver Age Thor, then this is the way to do it. This contains issues 153 through 194. It retails for $125, but Things from Another World is selling this for $100 even. Next up is Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur #23. If you think you've seen this cover before, you have. It's a swipe of Amazing Spider-Man #50, the first appearance of the Kingpin, the Spider-Man No More storyline. I don't have any evidence of this, but I believe that Marvel is developing Moon Girl to be an animated show in the future, just like how DC took Static Shock and made it a successful cartoon. Next up is Star Wars Mace Windu, #2 of a 5-part miniseries. This is the character that's played by Samuel L. Jackson in live action in the prequels that everyone hated. But it wasn't his fault, it was Jar Jar Binks'. I love the Marvel Star Wars series and all of the spin-offs except for Captain Phasma. And Mace Windu is no exception. I've named it the pick of the week for August 30th, 2017. So I think issue #2 in the whole miniseries is a no-brainer pickup. Next up is the Venomverse #4. I am personally tired of Venom, but if you're okay with it and this is your thing, go ahead and pick it up. The Clayton Crane variant looks great. I like what he does with horror characters. It really works with his multimedia style. I can't even argue anymore. I'm just exhausted with the whole Venom thing. For all of you who are saying I'm unfair to Marvel in my criticism, seriously, aren't you tired of all this too? It's just too much, way too much. Next up is Marvel Legacy #1, which is going to ship with 13, count them, 13 covers. In addition, the cover price is $6. It's going to come with a John Tyler Christopher trading card variant and a Deodato wraparound variant as well. Basically, more variants that you could ever ask for. As you already know, I'm one of Marvel's biggest critics when it comes to how they're marketing their comics, but when it comes to the movies, I'm one of their biggest fans. Ragnarok, Black Panther, Infinity War, Captain Marvel, can't wait. Next up is our report on independent comics and small publishers. First off, we're going to immediately get into Image Comics, who are having a very strong week. First up is Black Magick #8. This is the story of a female detective that is secretly a witch. This story reminds me of Jessica Jones if she wasn't a superhero, but if she was a witch. It's got that same type of grit to it with a female lead. And guess who shows up to do a cover B variant? Jenny Frison. My, is Jenny popular. Everyone's calling her now to do a variant. I'm sure her price has went up. It's not just the covers with Black Magick. The interior is fantastic. This is the book you should be reading. Next up is Black Monday Murders #7. This is Jonathan Hickman's masterpiece, which I would describe as conspiracy horror. Next up is Buzzkill, which is going on trade paperback collecting issues 1 through 4. This is written by Donny Cates before he got famous for Redneck and God Country. It's the story of a superhero who gets his powers from the use of alcohol and illicit drugs. That's a very interesting premise, and yes, you should be picking this up to see what you missed from Cates' catalog. Speaking of trade paperbacks, we have Hadrian's Wall, which collects all 8 issues of this incredible miniseries that you also missed. It's about a pill-popping detective that must go into outer space to investigate a murder on a space station. Collectively, comic fans really blew it when they overlooked this series. The writing and the art is incredible. But you get a chance to redeem yourself by picking up this trade. Think of CSI and Law and Order meet Star Trek. Next up is The Hard Place #2. It's an overlooked gem. It's the story of a getaway driver that's trying to go straight, but winds up getting pulled back into the world of robbing banks. The covers are done by Brian Stelfreeze, who was nominated for an Eisner for his work on Black Panther. Next up is Packlist #5. This is an anthology series that has multiple stories within the same comic. You don't see that very much in comics anymore, but that's how comics started out in the very beginning. These are fantasy stories that look like they could be in heavy metal, so it's not for everybody, but it is good. Next up is Redneck #6. This is the end of the first story arc called Deep in the Heart. As I mentioned before, it's written by Donny Cates, and this is his breakout year. And he can't be stopped, baby. It's the story of a vampire family in East Texas. They are now surrounded by the cops with no way out. Redneck is great. You definitely should be reading it. Next up is Southern Bastards #18, and this is one of those fan favorites. About a southern small town that's ravaged by crime, and the crime boss is actually the high school football coach. And spoiler alert, they killed off the lead character a long time ago, but now his daughter has stepped in and is looking for revenge. There's a cover B version of this that's drawn by Fiona Staples, who's most famous for Saga. Speaking of Saga, issue number 47 drops this month. And what else can I say about it? It's a darling of the Eisners, it's critically acclaimed and commercially successful. They sell this comic every month without any gimmicks. On the outside looking in, it looks kind of weird, but at the end of the day, it's basically Romeo and Juliet meets Star Wars. As mentioned, it's drawn by Fiona Staples, but it's written by Brian K. Vaughan, who's also the author of Why the Last Man and creator of The Runaways, and other countless stuff I can't even mention because I don't have enough time. Next up is Spawn #278. Its creator, Todd McFarlane, is going to be busy on the Spawn movie, so he's hanging over writing to Derek Savage and Jason Sean Alexander on art. And as you can see, they're going into very deep horror. It's a different spin than you've seen on this comic before. Looks like something Cullen Bunn would do. McFarlane gave up drawing this consistently a long time ago, but he was consistently writing it until about 6 months ago. So this is going to be a little bit different now. That's it for Image, but let's see what Valiant is up to. And that's going to be War Mother #2. This takes place in the future in the 41st century, and the lead character is a warrior, scavenger, mercenary. You can compare her to Furiosa in the Mad Max movies. There's 4 different covers for this, and they're all very strong. Next up is Exo Manowar #7. This is the start of a new storyline called Emperor. Seriously, Exo has some of the most stunning covers you're going to find in comics these days. And the interior work does not disappoint either. Exo shows us just how good comics can be and make it less comic booky and more like graphic novel science fiction. Next up is the speculation pick of the week. And that's going to be Fujitsu #1 from Aftershock Comics. It's the story of the world's smartest boy who doesn't age. So he's been friends with some of the smartest people in history like Einstein, the Wright brothers, Gandhi. His whole mission in life though is protecting the world from the world's tallest man, Robert Wadlow. Fu exiles himself in the South Pole to get over a breakup from his ex-girlfriend. Wadlow returns from the future and brings with him his ultimate weapon, James Dean. As you can see, this is going to be an action comedy, which is going to be completely ridiculous. Just like in the case of Shirtless Bear Fighter, that's ridiculous as well, but it works. I believe that Fujitsu's ridiculousness will work as well. Sometimes comics take themselves too seriously, and they're just asking to be spoofed. So yeah, I'm putting my money down for Fujitsu this week. But that's not all. We have some more comics to talk about this week, including Red Sonja #9 from Dynamite Entertainment. She's been displaced to the modern day. It's a fish out of the water story by Amy Chu. And the Trucker Sonja cover, yeah, that's worth picking up for just that alone. Next up is Robotech #3 from Titan Comics. The 1980s Robotech cartoon was some of the first Japanimation the American kids like myself saw, so I will always have a soft spot for this property. Next up, and also from Titan Comics, is Captain Kronos #1. He's a vampire hunter in Eastern Europe. If you like the vampire genre, this is for you. Next up is Aura #1 from Antarctic Press. It's the story of a woman who's out shopping for groceries and gets transported to a strange land. And the only way to make it home is to find all the items on her grocery list while she's there. Maybe a surprise hit, huh? Next up, and also from Antarctic Press, is Adventure Finders #1. And this too has been selling very well pre-sale. It's a story of a small town girl and her friends who want to make it big as renowned fighters. It's described as 1 part Xena Princess Warrior, 1 part Barbie. Next up is Graveland #1 from Scout Comics. This is a story of the big one hitting the San Andreas Fault, but it's not earthquakes, it's actually monsters. To fight off the monsters, the government creates a serum that creates superheroes to try to fight off the monsters. I like that premise. I'll check this out. You know the drill. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, give it a thumbs up, and share these videos on social media so others learn about comic power. That's about it for today. Thank you for watching Wicked Wednesday, where I review all the new comic books for a new comic day. Be sure to follow my blog at comicpower.net. On social media, follow me at facebook.com/comicpower.net and comicpower-universe.tumblr.com. And don't forget twitter.com/comicpowersub. I also sell comics on eBay at this link. This is Comic Killer 72 for Comic Power saying bye-bye. And don't forget to share this video, click on subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and tell everyone you know about this channel to help it grow. Thank you for your support.